Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another session with Emeni Ifeanyi. Today we are still on the series which I have started, which I have titled 419 to Make Millions in Nigeria. Basically, this series is about what are 419 ways which any Nigerian can use to raise at least 1 million within the next 12 months in Nigeria. I'm doing this because a lot of families are passing through some difficult challenges. I've been inundated with calls of people after watching my videos. They call and say, "Sir, what do we do? My family is crashing. My wife is about to leave me. What do I do because I can't fend for my family?" So today I want to share with you an idea which I think can help you to raise at least 2.5 million within 12 months. Now, I can guarantee you that this thing is assured to raise you at least 2.5 million if you can follow the steps which I will list out for you. Because these steps helped me to raise approximately that kind of amount about a few years ago when I was passing through some very tough financial challenges. Now, today's talk is focused on how you can make money by writing books. Now, you'll be wondering, what is he talking about? How can I don't know anything about writing. How can I suddenly start to write books? Well, when I wrote my first book called Cash Flow Strategy, at that particular point, I knew practically nothing about writing books. It had never come into my mind that I could ever write a book. But by the time that book came out, within 1 year, one of the lecturers in the University of Lagos was using that book as his core textbook in teaching his students. Now, what is it? How come that somebody who has zero financial background could write a book that a lecturer in the finance department in University of Lagos can now use his book for teaching his students? So, if I can do that, it means that you too can do it. I want to share with you the steps which I passed through in writing my first book and my subsequent books, and to show you that anybody can do this. Because it's high time we, especially those of us, those workers. And recently I was watching the television and I saw a university lecturer who has turned into a laborer because he was being owed for months. And I asked myself, if I, without any experience, can make at least 2.5 million from books, how come this lecturer is not doing something to generate money from the ideas he's sharing with students? So also I'm targeting teachers, those of you who are civil servants. These are some of the things that you can do to make money, especially those of you who are workers. For instance, there was a particular, for those of you who understand the pharmaceutical industry, if you want to know what it takes to register a pharmaceutical premises in Nigeria, it's almost like pulling a tooth because there's no information listed out anywhere. And one day I went to one of the staffs of the Pharmaceutical Council of Nigeria. I said, "Sir, this kind of book that details the step-to-step process of what it takes to register a premises, there's nothing like this. Do a book in this area." Now, for those of you too, in different areas you are working, there are challenges that people who are coming into your sector are facing. I also want you to do something about it because these are piles of money waiting for you. There was a time that I went to, when my wife gave birth at Lagos State University Teaching Hospital. And the processes there was so tedious. There was so much confusion. You don't know where to go to pay or where to go to get service. And I was wondering, what if one of these staff decides to write a book that details the processes of where you get everything, a book that contains the map? Even if the person sells it for 500, people will readily buy because it will give you guide and direction on how to avoid some of the stress that people are passing through. So today what I want to do is to share with you a process that I can guarantee you help you make at least, let me not just be true, let me say maybe you cannot, because I believe my own, I was divinely inspired to make that amount. So let's say you want to make 1 million. I believe that 1 million within 2016 can help you solve some very challenging situations, especially if you're a government worker who is facing some tough time. So what are the steps you need to take to make at least 1 million from the ideas you have in your head? Now, the first thing I did when I wanted to, when God put the inspiration to write a book in my heart was, I started to look at what are the challenges I was facing. I realized that by then my business had collapsed. And I want to ask myself, what made my business collapse? And I started to write the reasons why my business collapsed. I started to write down, capture the ideas of why my business collapsed and the different areas, business mistakes I'm noticing people make. It means that for you to start to write a book, look at your life, ask yourself, what are the major challenges I've overcome? Or what are the major challenges I'm passing through? What are the areas I'm passionate about? Those are areas, see, for anything that you are very passionate about, you can be sure that at least 1,000 to 2,000 other people are very passionate about that area. For any serious problem that you have passed through, you can be sure that at least 10,000 other people are currently passing through that challenge, especially the challenges that you've overcome. For me, I've overcome major challenges in the area of business failure. I've overcome major challenges in the area of marital problem. I've overcome major challenges in the area of health. And this three key area was the area I decided to focus on. Now, I want to focus on the area. My first book was titled Cash Flow Strategy, majorly on how anybody can overcome business challenges and what the steps you can put in place to grow your business. So the first thing I did was I started to write down the mistakes I made. I also started to write down how I was able to, because with my pharmaceutical business, I started with practically nothing, and as at before the crash, I grew it to about 7 million. So what I did was, all these ideas, when I started to write down all the things I did. Now, some of the things I did were quite unique. For instance, at that time, I reached out to an Indian manufacturer. That was way back before NAFDAC came into place. And I told them that, see, I want to start to market your product in Nigeria. What you need to do is to give me samples of product. Let me help you push them out. I traveled I raised out some little money. It was just basically the transportation cost that I had and my hotel accommodation money that I was able to raise. I went to India and said, guys, I can do this for you in Nigeria. Give me some samples of your product. Let me just show around. Now, because I had done some market research in Nigeria, I knew that as at then, the product I was taking was called Omeprazole. As at then, a packet was selling for about 3,000 naira per row. And I was targeting to get at least 1,000 packets from these people, which they eventually gave to me. And from this 1,000 packet that they gave to me, I subsidized it, and I was able to raise the money from selling these samples. And from there, I was able to raise the money that I was used to register the products with NAFDAC when the NAFDAC was coming up. That was how I was able to generate the money I used to start build that business. Now, these are the ideas I started to capture, because I know that though my business had calculated them, but that this idea then that I executed were unique. So I started to capture this thing down. I also started to observe those who are running their business very successfully. And I was asking myself, what are these people doing uniquely? And I was noticing what they were doing, and when I get home in the evening, I will write those things that I noticed them do. I will look around me, I was just deliberately looking out for ideas. It means that for you to look at the challenges that you pass through, and also look at people who are successful in that area. Start to look at what they are doing, and start to write those things down. That is the first step to writing a book. Now, the next thing I did was to start. I knew that there were a lot of authors, but I knew that I wanted to write a kind of book that people will find it enjoyable and recommend to other people. So what I decided to do was, I asked myself, who are the best sellers in this industry where I want to move in? And I listed people like Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad. I started to read books like his own because I enjoyed it. I wanted to find out what are his writing patterns. I started to read books like How to Make Friends and Influence People. I needed to find out these bestsellers, these books that have been selling constantly for years. What are the secrets behind their success? So you too, when you want to start, you also need to start to read bestseller books. Start to read as much as possible. You need to read at least, before you publish your book, you must have read at least 100 bestseller books. Now, if you can look across my library, this is just part of my library, different from the one I have in the house. All the books here, I've read all of them. I read most of them even before I started to write. It means that you need to read as much as possible. The more you read, the more you're able to get insight of how are the plans that bestsellers put their book in. Now, there's a particular writer I would strongly suggest you read all his books before you start to write, no matter the area you want to start writing. He's called Malcolm Gladwell. He's a wonderful writer. Get all his books. One of them is called David and Goliath. Another one is called Tipping Point. The other one called Blink. Get all his books and read all of them. His book will guide you on what it takes to write a best-selling book. You need to understand that there's a way, that there's a path that people have created in writing books, and you too must also follow that path. So you don't try to make anything new in writing. There's already an established path that you can do. So look at your experience. Maybe, especially for women, look at the challenges you are passing in your house and look at how you'll be overcoming them. Start to put this thing into books. Write them down. You know, one of my mentees is she makes soups, and she makes and sells soup to people. So what I've been telling her to do was start to write down your recipe. Start to take pictures of your soup as you are making them and start to write the processes. See that, in as much as you're in Lagos, there are people outside Lagos who you cannot serve. But if you can start to put your books down and you print your book, wherever anybody is, your books can get to them and they can start to enjoy the services you are rendering. So as much as possible, so what I asked her to do was to start to read cooking books. And also in any area you want to go to, you must read what the bestseller in those areas have written. That's why for me, I read books of people like Jack Canfield, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Tom Peters. I read their books because I was more interested in the area of business management, business growth, and business survival. So I read out the books of people in this area. Whichever area you want to go into, you must read the books of the experts, the top experts in that area. One of the things I did too was to Google best 20 writers. And as their name came up, I started to read on their website on what they were doing. I started to get their books and to read their books. It's better for you to imitate the best rather than for you to try to recreate something on your own. So, also do this. Now, the next thing you also need to do is start to write your experiences and what you observe people do in that area. At this stage, I want to read a part of my book so that you can understand what I currently have published about 5 books. Now, see this book. I want to read what somebody said about it, because why I want to read this book is this was my very first book. Now, there is a funny thing behind this book. When I was writing it, and it's based purely on Psalm 23, but when you finish reading this book, there's a magic behind this book. In fact, let me read what someone who read the soft copy online said about it. He said, "Sir, when I first saw this book, I just wanted to flip through a few pages. But before I knew what was happening, I had abandoned everything I was doing and read through the entire book in one day." Now, this was just the soft copy that the person got. And it's a book of about 205 pages. Imagine what it means for somebody to finish 205 pages in one day. The point I'm trying to make is that the concept in this book is what you can put down to. Now, let me also just read the introduction so that you also know how to structure the book. It starts with, it's called a King's Secret Code for Success. The shape of the earth was once a mystery, and because of that mystery, men never ventured very far out into the sea out of fear. The principles of success and fulfillment were once mysteries too. Many people fail in life because they do not understand the principles behind success. This life is full of mystery, but once a mystery is understood and its principles explained, its usefulness becomes available to all who study the discovered principle. For such people, the mystery disappears, and it will never confound them again. Rather, they will begin to make progress more rapidly in life with the new set of laws they learn from the former mystery. For those who fail to learn the discovered principle of mysteries, they will forever remain baffled by it and will never enjoy the benefit the mystery has to offer them. For ages, a certain mystery had baffled mankind. Human beings could not understand why things fell downwards and never upwards. This remained a mystery for many centuries. One day, a young man named Isaac Newton was enjoying his siesta under an apple tree. Suddenly, an apple fell off the tree and hit him on the head. It startled him, but it was the beginning of the end of the mystery. Newton studied falling objects. At the end, he discovered the reason why things fell downwards towards the earth. He called the set of principles he discovered the law of gravity. Other people studied the law Newton discovered and took advantage of it. For people who did not bother to understand the law Newton discovered, they could not understand why things fell towards the earth. Some of them still ran away when something fell from the sky, claiming that the gods were angry with them. For centuries, the secrets of success were hidden in different books like the Bible. But men and women kept struggling through life. Some of the secrets in the Bible have been discovered, while others are still hidden. The secret in Psalm 23 has been made plain to all who seek to find it. It can transform the life of those who study, discover principles, and practice it. The big question is, can you see what is hidden in the Psalm 23? Now, when you see this story, when you start this, the introductory part is quite captivating. That is why, if you are reading this book, you won't see any relationship of it being a religious book. It looks so captivating that within the first few pages, you want to continue. In fact, I've found there's nobody who ever started this book that has been able to keep it down without finishing it. So also, I want you to especially the first book of your first chapter of your page, of your book, start to tell stories. Make it as interesting as possible. So, like I said, start to write your experiences and what you observe people do in that area. So start to tell stories as much as possible. Share your experiences in your book. Write as much as possible. You know, and why people write books that are boring is that we just like to share facts. On the average human being enjoys stories. Do you know one of the best-selling books in the world as of today is the Bible? Now, why is the Bible still the best-selling book? If you have read the Bible, you find out that the Bible, almost everything there is stories. Now, as you are reading the story, the message is getting to you, but you are enjoying the story as you are reading through. Most books that you find that flop in the market are because the author tried to just give out facts. Like, look at this, my other book. I want to share something from it. It says, funny enough, this book was written in during the last financial crisis, which is about in 2009. But it's like we are back in the recession era. You see, we are in a recession and subsidy dilemma because people fail to plan. We fail to plan properly, or faith just took a swing at our finances. There are, however, many honest people who are cruising through this crisis without feeling the pinch. The main part of finance, especially how to increase your cash flow and income, is handled in our previous book, How to Convert Your Idea for It. Okay. Now it says, what we want to do here is to help you manage your present financial situation during this period. So pre-stage 1, how much do you have? You need to calculate how much money you have. This implies knowing how much you earn and how much you spend and what you owe. This will determine and help you manage your finances very well. He also said, look at the part I want to about telling stories. A man was woken up in the middle of the night by his pregnant wife. She was already in labor and needed to get to the hospital at once. But there was a problem. The man did not have any money at that point. He had to go knocking on his neighbor's door to collect some money with which to pay the initial hospital deposit. Imagine what would happen if you were in that kind of situation and none of your neighbors had money to spare. Setting up a crisis fund is where you must start to manage your finances in this economic downturn. You do not want to experience financial crisis. Therefore, you must be prepared for any kind of crisis before it happens to you by having something set aside before you reach out for help. You must open an account and deposit the equivalent of at least $100 into that account. You should then get an ATM card for that account. Then keep the cards safe in a place and never ever touch it. The money in that account must be strictly for real and true emergency situation. You must not use it to pay your children's school fees, buy food in the house, or pay your debtors. You must draw on that account only in times of crisis like accident, acute sickness, fire disaster, flood, or if your family is stuck in the middle of nowhere and your car has broken down. Now you notice that I started with a story of a man whose wife was pregnant. Well, that was basically me. My wife was pregnant then and I did not have any money. So when she went into labor in the middle of the night, I had to rush out to a neighbor to borrow some money. I started with a story which is captivating, and with that now I now made a point, which was the importance of setting up a crisis account. So also when you are trying to write a book, always share stories. Stories keep people captivated, and when you are sharing your story, you're not passing your point buried inside the story. And that was the magic behind Jesus' message. You find out that most times when he is asked a question, he starts with a parable. A parable is like a story. And inside the parable, he buries the point. For instance, when he was asked, who is my neighbor? He started with the story of someone who was traveling and was caught by armed robbers and was waylaid and was beaten up. And a priest came, saw him walk the other way. A Levite came, abandoned him, and a Samaritan came. At the end of the day, he now asked them, who is my neighbor? That way, he was able to explain who is your neighbor without saying, okay, your neighbor is somebody who does this. He used a story to pass a point, and everybody enjoyed the story. But at the end of the day, they got the message. Almost any time Jesus is asked a question, he comes up with a story. And inside the story, he buries the answer to it. So that anybody, you won't find any part of Jesus, of the gospel, or any part of the Bible boring, because it is written like a story. And when you are reading it, you find as if like you are reading a storybook. It is important to bury as much story as possible. But also remember too, don't overdo it. As much as like if you notice in the part that I've read about when my wife was pregnant, and about the message the point I was trying to make was setting up a crisis fund account. So first 2 paragraphs was about me and my wife going to knock on somebody. Then I now tried to talk about the crisis account. The same thing you also need to do. Start with a story, then gradually now shift over to the point you want to make. Now also the advantage of starting with a story is that it increases the number of words you write. My average book is about, this one is 205 pages. This one is about 210 pages. The other ones are 250, 100, 300. If you don't share a lot of story and you're just making the points, you find out you end up with a book that is so very small. And when people say a very tiny book, any book that is less than about 200 pages, people just see it as an unserious book. There is an impression that a small volume book creates in the mind of people. So what you need to do is to, with story, try to increase the number of the point of the words in your book. And share experiences. Share your own personal experiences. Share experiences, especially experiences related to the point you are trying to make. Don't just share any unrelated experience, because if you do that, people will lose you and people will find it difficult to read your books. And now, we've talked about writing the book, writing stories, how to structure your book. Now, also see why it's important for you to read other people's books, especially bestsellers. When you read, for those who have read my book, you notice that if you can read, see, sorry, let me just focus in so you can, let me zoom in so that you can see. Now, if you look at the book now, you notice that the paragraph are separated. You can see that there's so much space between the paragraphs. You can see the fonts are big. It's important for you to write in big fonts, because once you write in tiny fonts tend to put people off. Tiny fonts tend to make people feel that, you know, there's a way you just see a book, and before you even start to read it, it has put you off. So as much as possible, make enough paragraphs in your books and try to make your font lettering. For me, I would recommend size 14 font. That is, I use size 14. But anything between 12, not between 13 and 14. That's where the fonts are big and the word will be appealing when somebody opens the book to read. And also, the bigger the fonts, the larger the number of pages you write. But don't just make it so big that when somebody looks at it, it looks so plain. And the next thing you also need to do is, you need to include pictures in your books. Pictures, you know, pictures help people a lot. And, you know, outside Nigeria, it might be cheaper to do colored pictures, but in Nigeria, it's still very expensive to do colored pictures. So just try and do black and white pictures. Just add some pictures, because people relate more with pictures. Add a picture that can help you tell your story. You know, those experiences, if you are talking about cooking, take pictures of yourself cooking. Take pictures of the food you've cooked and add them in the book. Now, that is about the main writing. Now, we'll now get to the second part. The second part is about how now do you start to get this book ready for selling. As you finish writing, while you are still writing, your target is, for me, I actually sell each of my books 2,000. Now, my target is to get at least 1,000 people who can afford 2,000. But for you, let's say you want to sell for 1,000. You now need to start to get at least 1,000 people who can easily afford 1,000 naira. Because if you get 1,000 people who can afford 1,000 naira, then, and each of them can buy your book, that is 1,000 times 1,000, making it 1 million. So what you now need to do, which was what I did then, was start to join a lot of organizations. I started to join a lot of organizations, you know, in your churches, in your community, as much as possible. Look for organizations where Rotary Club, Full Gospel Businessmen Fellowship, look at your church, look at the organization in your church, join as much organizations as possible. And after joining them, make yourself active and visible. Because when people know you, they can readily buy anything from you. And when people know you, you know, see, one thing that I realized somehow by divine inspiration was that the first set of people who will buy my book will not buy it because of the content. They will buy it because they know me. So what I did was try to build relationship at least 6 months to 1 year before the book was out. Such that when the book was out, in fact, most of them, when I go to them and say, sir, I just finished, my book is out, I just finished publishing, they say, wow, good idea. Well, to encourage you, here's 5,000. In fact, I had some people giving me, for a copy of my book, 20,000, 30,000. It means that the first set of people that are going to buy it are going to buy it because of a relationship with them. So as much as possible, start to build relationship with these guys. Build this relationship, and you know, the more you build this relationship, the more they can to key into you. And as much as possible too, look at your friends and acquaintances. Start to help more people. Start to render help. You know, start to greet people a lot. As most importantly, when you see people around you, good morning, how is the family? That way people start to see you as someone who is likable. You need to make yourself presentable at least 6 months before your book is out. As much as possible, you know, what I did on my street too and around me was just when I say, good morning, sir, how is the family? And these were people who didn't know me so much before. And when the book was out, I said, sir, my book is out. Wow, nice book, let me see. Okay, now let me write it for you for 2,000. So you also need to do this. Start to build relationship with people. Become active in building relationship. Your target must be at least 1,000 people. Now, what you also need to do is reactivate all relationship and become active. I'll talk about that. Write down the name of at least 1,000 people who can afford 1,000 naira. You need to be very systematic about this. Sit down and start to write down the names of people you know. People who you can reach out to. At least 1,000 who can afford 1,000 naira. Meaning that when you print out your first 1,000 books and you start to reach out to these people with 1,000 naira, you can guarantee you your first 1 million naira. And for lecturers, for Christ's sake, look at your past students, look at your present students. Start to compile books, start to compile their names, and reach out to them. For a lecturer who has been teaching for 3 years, it means that, let's say you teach about average of 100 students per set. It means that you have 300 students who are passed through. You have 100 students who are present with you. And maybe 200, let's say you are teaching 400 years. You still have about 400 people still coming up. That's about, let's say, 700 people. So if you can do about 1,000 naira book or 2,000 naira per book, and some of your ex-students will now definitely buy it for more than 1,000 from you, that guarantees you more than 2 million in a year. And you realize that because you are putting in form of a book, your students will readily buy a book than pay you for handout. But when you give them handout, they see it as cheating. So as much as possible, give out, print, publish your book, capture your ideas. And see, for lecturers, most importantly, one of the things that I want to share with lecturers is this. You need to understand that your students, most of the ideas you are sharing with your students are the things that they will buy from you. So start to capture those ideas that you'll be sharing with them. The more you capture them, the more they want to, and you know, get a tape recorder. And as you are teaching, capture your books, your ideas, record your teachings. And when you get back, go through the recording and start to pick up those ideas that are unique. There are things that divine inspiration, when you are teaching, that will drop into you. Those are novel ideas into you. Capture them down and put them in your book. So, the next thing also you need to do is get copies of the best locally designed and printed books and track down the publisher. What I did when I was about to publish my book was, I looked at who were the best best authors in Nigeria. I looked at people like Sam Adeyemi. I looked at some of the top authors, and I asked myself, who are their publishers? I tracked down their publisher. The name of the publisher is Asbot Graphics. I tracked this guy down, and when I went to him, though his own was a bit more expensive, but from him, if you look at the design of all my book, anybody who sees any of my books will never believe that these things were printed in Nigeria. Now, it's because I took out time to look at the best authors and found out where they're publishing. You need to understand that the quality of your cover and the inside of your book is very, very critical. The amount that people are willing to pay is based on the design of your book. You must get the design right, which means don't mind the cost that you'll be charged for designing and publishing. I'll promise you that if you go for the best design publishers and you do it right, you are guaranteed that you can make up that amount from what you are going to sell. Like I said, well, let me just share it now because this is about helping Nigerians. On the average, each of my book costs, the printing costs about 400 naira. Now, for publishing for 400 naira, I sell about 2,000. Look at the margin. You too need to understand that if you publish very well, people can appreciate you and equate your book with the best publishers in the world. So as much as possible, get the best designers to design your book. Get the best publishers. Even they're expensive. Get them. It's the person who does for me, does for Paul and then check all his books to tell you the kind of publisher he is. Don't do local publishers. Theirs might be cheaper, but the output will be very poor that people won't even want to buy from you. And sorry, I didn't even, for those of you who want to buy my book, yes, you know the cost, but like I promised God that I will give out this one for free. And so for anybody who buys this one for 2,000, you get this one free. Basically, you are getting it for 1,000 then. So if you buy any of this book, you can actually order it from Konga. But if on Konga it's actually sent for 2,000. But if you order it on Konga for 2,000 and call me and say that you are getting it from me, then you get the two for 2,000. Or you can call me on 08023622171. 08023622171 and say that you need the book. I can send it to you. You know, my own can also show you the layout and how you can start and how you can structure your book. The layout is very, very critical. I tell you, the layout is very, very important. So the next thing you also need to do is send your manuscript to people for input and suggestion, especially your first book. Look at the likely people who are going to read your book and send it out to them. You know what I did was I shared out my manuscript to people who I knew that would the kind of people who I felt were my target audience, and from their input I made some corrections. It's very important for you too. Don't give it to your colleagues. Let's say you're writing for students. After writing, give it some students. Say, look, read this thing. How do you find it interesting? Is it helpful to you? Let them get their own reason. Don't just ask them if they like it. Ask specifically, what is it that you don't like about this book? That was what was, and because if you ask, do you like it? Just some people just remember you say, oh, it's wonderful. So what I was asking, what don't you like about this book? And that way I was getting some criticism, and from their criticism I was making the necessary corrections. You too also need to do this too. Reach out to people and say, what don't you like about this? And from their correction, you can make out the necessary correction. And also send it to a very good editor. Editing is very, very important. Get somebody to edit it for you and pay the editor. Don't mind what it will cost you initially. Pay the editor and you'll be amazed at how much it can save you. And see something why you need to get an independent editor is because the book was written by you. I can tell you that as we are reading the book, there will be a place. Let's say we are reading from this my book. Let's say it says, at this stage you need to consider surrendering and just letting your spirit and soul lie down in God's rest, even as you begin to see ways of going after your goals using your own strategies. Now, but you see something. I'm written at this stage, you need to consciously, without knowing that, as I'm reading it, I'm saying you need to, but on the page, there's no need. In my read, at this stage, you to consciously surrender. Now, because I was the one that wrote it, in my brain, I knew that I put need in my brain, so I felt it's there. And anytime I read it, I will see the need there. But when somebody else reads it, and in fact, when my editor starts to edit, I see where she's putting some missing parts. I'm wondering, how come I didn't see this? It was because I wrote it. So in my brain, it's there in my brain, but in the book, it's not there. So get an independent editor, to edit your book for you. Then read online books and publishing guideline. So as much as possible, read other authors online. As much as possible, there's something on Amazon called Kindle KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing. Go there, see people who have published soft copies of their book. Read as much as possible about it. And also, there's something I want you to do as you're writing. Tell people on social media that you're writing. So after every maybe 1,000 words, copy it out and put on your Facebook page. And let people comment about it. Let people, invite people to comment and get suggestions from them. And the good thing is that as more people are reading it, if it's interesting, they will let you know. And you have a key number of people who are liking it. As they are liking it, get the contact of these people. And get in touch with them, start to interact with them, and get their phone number, because these are likely customers who will buy for you when the final book is ready. And something also you need to do is get a 3D design of the copy. Well, if you go to my website, you see images of the book too. You also need to design images of your book and upload on your Facebook page. Let me assume that you don't have a website for now, but I also suggest that you work on setting up a website. Then one thing you also need to do is, on social media, in that area you are writing, start to talk about that thing. Start to talk about, because if you read most of my posting on social media, if you have visited my website, or look me up on Facebook or any other social media, you find that most of my talk, most of my write-up are focused on business. Most of my write-up are focused on how you can get better. So the more people read about me, they want to know more about me. And when they want to know about me, they see that I've written a book. And on my Facebook page, there are links that take people from my website and my page to where they can buy it online. So start to talk, let people know you as an expert in this area. When they start to see you as an expert in this area, they will start also to consult you. And when they start to consult you, then they can start to buy book from you. But another thing you also need to do is start to also attend seminars and start to volunteer to give talks. One of the best ways I've sold my book is to give free talks. Every time I call to give free talk, and in my talk, just like I'm doing this one now, I've been mentioning my books. A lot of people after watching this will call me. So what I do is that I go to organizations, I go to churches and say, I can give you free talks on this area. These are challenges I know that Christians are facing. I feel that this is some area I can give you free talks. And at the end of the day, I find myself selling about maybe 20 books per talk. Now multiply 20 books, 2,000 by 20 books. This is something, these sales I would not have made if I had not given this free talk. So you need to start to, the next point is that market your books. Reach out to people. Go out with your books. Start to visit, when the book is now out, visit friends and relatives with the books. Pick out that 1,000 list, start to visit them one by one. Say, my book is out, launch it for me. And I need to, unless you have a very solid foundation, beware of launching your book in an open ceremony. Most time for most people, it flops. So, except you are let's say you're a government worker and you have people who come to you. Now, it means that you already have a base, so you can key into these people. But if you don't have people who are looking up to you in a particular area, people who maybe a client, some people who depend on you, I would really recommend launching the book. Go on one-on-one people, come to somebody and say, sir, I've just printed my book, so I want you to launch it for me. That way, you are reducing your cost and also maximizing your input. But if you feel that you have enough people who can come to your aid, some people who depend on you or who are looking up to you, maybe for some kind of favor, then I'll suggest do an open launching. So those kind of people will come and launch for you because they are expecting something from you. So if you're a lecturer, okay, no, not a lecturer, because I want to recommend that for, let's say you're a government worker in a particular area, and people will always come to you to help them accelerate some of their processes. So what you want to do is, if you know those people, Tell them, send out your invitation to them that I'm launching my book. You find out that most people will come to you and say, wow, let's launch, and okay, let me launch it with 5,000 for you or 10,000. I've seen you work for a lot of government workers. So especially for a government worker, and you are maybe on a position where you need to sign a lot of documents, after publishing, keep your book on your table, and when somebody comes out, as you're about to say, this is my book, launch it for me. That way you'll be making so much income from your book. Now, I know that I've shared a lot. There are other things too that I would love to share with more points I want to share with you, but just not to make the talk very long. If you feel you need more insight on how to write your book, you can call me on 080-2362-2171. And also visit my website, www.richnigerianpharmacist.com, on my Facebook pages or watch this video on, you can watch my other videos on YouTube on Rich Nigerian Mentor, RICH Nigerian Mentor, either on Facebook, on YouTube. Watch my other videos there so that you can also get guide on how to market your ideas. I believe that within this short period, I've been able to pass some ideas that can help you. Let's stop crying and let's start do something. There are ideas in our head which we can transform our life. You too need to know that it's time for you to stop depending on on government to do things for you. It's now time for you to start to do something for yourself. Once in a while, I organize seminars for business people having business challenges. So for those of you who want to attend our seminars, you can also call me on 080-2362-2171. And for any challenges, call me so that I can see how we can help you to grow your business. I hope that I've been able to touch you. I hope that there's something that has come out from my mouth today to try and help you see that there is hope. There's no reason for any Nigerian to lose hope at this particular point. It's time for us to rise up and do something about our life, so that God, who has said to put us in this country, will bless us. And may the Lord bless your ideas. And may the Lord grant you the will to stand up to do something with that ideas and run from it. Because in the book of Habakkuk, because the Lord tells us that let's write this vision and make it plain, so that he who has it will run with it. Write your ideas down and make it plain and start to run with it, so that with it, God can transform your life and bring his wisdom and understanding into you. And that you can be a shining light unto others and encourage other people, so that this great nation of ours will be transformed and be made great. Thank you for listening to me, and God bless you.